I'm walking along, these things happen to me, and you think that everyone is against me. Okay, everyone is conspiring against me. So this is a view that the world is against me. And that this is a view that then leads to a victim mentality. That I am always targeted, and it's a negative way of looking at the world. It's that view of the world you probably heard, the glass is half empty, not half full. Okay? And then the third thing is, it's me against the world. You had one person talking about, which is that as soon as this happens, he say, all right, I can't wait to get that person. As soon as I get my hands on that dog's going to find out what I think about its food, and as soon as I get my hands on that owner, I'm going to respond. So you've got three responses. And of those responses, obviously, I would say, this is really the appropriate response. This is a response where an individual will harm themselves. This is your self-harm, emotionally vulnerable individual. Whereas this is your emotionally vulnerable individual, but this is one who harms others. Now let me talk about how it manifests itself in the real world, in terms of the work that I've done. Again, you'll find there's a person, and I know the criminal justice system is very different in Korea from other places, but I've worked in prison with lots of offenders. And what I found is that the people that I work in prison also fall into these three categories of people. There's one person who comes into prison, who recognizes, I've done a mistake, I've done wrong, I've made mistakes, I understood my thinking process and my decision-making process was faulty, and it resulted in me becoming a criminal, breaking the law, I did wrong, I will serve my time, I'll come out, and I'll improve myself. That's number one. A number two person goes into prison and says, I was victimized, the world is against me, and that person in prison is a bully. That person will be aggressive within prison. As soon as they come out of prison, they are even more aggressive. And you will see that they will want to commit even more crime, because they saw that they were victimized as a result of that. It was me against the world. And then there's another person who goes into prison and says that, why did this happen to me? I don't deserve this to have happened to me. And so when they go into the prison, they become even more vulnerable in prison. Prison actually destroys them. It shatters them. And then these are usually the individuals who are most at risk of suicide within prison as well, because they feel that, again, the world is against me. And as a result of that, you know, they are emotionally damaged even more. So these are three types, and it's quite significant, the type of attitude that you have. And again, this thing changes. Sometimes our social programming and our cultural programming makes us one more than the other, because we're used to, for example, it's me against the world. If the person doesn't behave in a way which is compatible with my cultural outlook, that person is against me. That's how you see the situation. That's the way you're seeing it, not the reality of it. You know, I had an interesting question yesterday where a person was talking about the fact that, you know, culturally, in his culture, there's a certain etiquette. Someone speaks, someone doesn't speak, and like this. And if a person interrupts, then that person is being rude. And he's offended by that. Now, obviously, okay, that kind of slightly lends to this, that, you know, that creates a potential conflict. Unless you go to this, it's up to me. Well, the situation is different. You know? So these are the three different types of behavior. And what we have to do, like I said, you have to change your paradigm. And you can change your paradigm very easily. You know, again, it's all a thinking process. You know, you can start off by being someone here, and then recognizing that obviously I have to take personal responsibility. Emotional intelligence is fundamentally about that, taking personal responsibility for your actions. Changing your paradigm. Okay, so let's move on to resilience now and talk about what resilience is all about. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. No matter what difficulty and challenge that I have, whether it's something as simple as dog poo or something even worse than that, the fact that I've failed my exams, I'm bankrupt, I haven't got, you know, I've let my family down. You know, we're going now into the really serious stuff. The stuff that really causes a person to think that they've got no hope. No hope is a really difficult situation to be in. You know, when someone believes they've got no hope, no opportunity, no way out, then that's the person who's most at risk of harming themselves. Because that's the individual who's got nothing to lose. You'll find, and that's the person who's, like I said, most likely to commit suicide. Whereas someone who's always thinking, there's a way out, I've got something to lose, recognizes the value in their life, recognizes that I've got important responsibility. That person is unlikely to self-harm themselves. Why? Because they've got that reference point. You're always going back to that reference point of that kind of sense of responsibility that they have. So, bouncing back from adversity, personal challenges, prejudice, discrimination, and overcoming life's obstacles. It's all up to me to live by design and not by default. And I'm going to talk about what that means. It means that where you have that reference point, in terms of my core values and my life objectives, it is easier for you to deal with challenges because you are working towards something, a long-term goal. And that enables you to be focused on that. Okay, so resilience development is based on the following kind of qualities, and I'll talk briefly about them. Number one, it's about competence. When I know that I am good at stuff, when I know that I am, and this is, some people talk about this as what we call mastery. When I've developed a skill and ability, and that the more competent that I am at that particular ability, then that gives me a sense of purpose and a sense of being grounded, because I'm competent. You'll find that people who don't have competence, again, that not only they just lack what we call self-esteem and worth, but also, it doesn't give them that ability to be resilient. So develop that competence. In terms of confidence, obviously, is very clear. That confidence, it comes from that self-belief. I believe in myself. I have core values. I know who I am as a person. Next comes, connection. The more positive connections that we have in our lives, with family, with our social network, with our friends, with our teachers, with our co-workers, whoever it is, the more positive social connections that I have, the more resilient that I am. Because I've got that safety net, I've got that important network of people supporting me. If I'm not making positive connections, then you can see the impact of being disconnected. The biggest challenges, in the emotional sense, is where an individual becomes isolated, alone, or feels alone. What kind of quotes in the PowerPoint, you'll see people talk about, I'm a loner, I can't sustain or create friendships, I don't get on with people. That person becomes more and more isolated and more disconnected. And when you become disconnected, then obviously, when you feel that kind of sense of alone, then those two paradigms, you can see it's up to, it's me against the world, or the world is against me, kind of start to develop. Character. And character here, again, it goes on, what are my core values? Remember what I talked about yesterday in terms of the compass, my north. The core values that define me as a person. The more I have a strong sense of who I am as a person, then I know that this is something that keeps me going. Contribution. Contribution is that the more I give to others, the more I serve others, and it's a very important concept, the more I serve, the more I support others, the more actually that this enables me and empowers me, because it indicates a certain type of character. The more generous you are to others, then the more you'll find that you yourself feel empowered as a result of that. I think Gandhi put it in the best way when he talks about that kind of concept of contribution. When he mentioned that quote, great quote of his, where he said, "Be the change you want to see." I love the way that he put it. Be the change that you want to see. Which is that don't always complain about society. Say that, oh, society is unjust and unfair. Don't say that, things are not good in the world. No point just complaining about it. Be the change you want to see. You become the person who creates the positive change. You're the one who should be foremost, therefore, in contributing to create the change as well. Coping. Develop coping strategies so that when you know that you are under strain and that you are challenged, that you are proactive in terms of dealing with those challenges. Also, control. Develop more control over your life. How do you develop control over your life? You develop control over your life by having a plan and having some kind of order and system and some kind of process in your life. So when you've got a combination of all these factors, then this builds your personal resilience. And then what it means is that whatever comes in your life, I can take it. I can take the challenges. You know, and you'll find you take care of your physical self, self-belief, your esteem and confidence. You make connections. You have this approach that nothing is impossible. And you're able to change your paradigm. You don't just stay in one tunnel vision. You know, for example, one of the things that leads to what we call, it's called catastrophizing. What is catastrophizing? Catastrophizing is that I've got a problem. And now if I have a very limited view, and I have a tunnel, what we call tunnel vision, I just look at the problem, I start to escalate it. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it becomes the whole purpose of my life. I've escalated what the situation is. Whereas with a resilient mindset, what you don't do is you de-escalate the problem. You chunk it down. Okay, I've got a big problem. It's an emotional problem. And you know what's bizarre is that you do this in the scientific sense. If I've got a massive problem that I'm dealing with, I can't deal with that massive scientific question in one go. I chunk it down. I make it lots of smaller questions, and then I address them as sort of smaller questions. So we do that with our cognitive intelligence, but equally, when I have a relationship problem, we don't do that with our relationships. We don't say, I've got a big problem, and people only see, I'm going to solve the big problem. No, they don't chunk it down into the smaller things that need to be changed. Okay, and as a result of that, you escalate, not de-escalate. You catastrophize rather than you kind of reduce the risk. And changing the record is quite key. Bounce back, keeping your eye on the prize, which means that look at what the long-term goal is. Look at what you're trying to achieve in the future, rather than the here and now. And the more future-focused you are, the more kind of resilient that you can be as well. And don't stop moving towards the goal. You know, I always say that, okay, if you've got a big mountain ahead of you, and you've got to climb that, you know, and it's raining, and the weather's terrible, and you're looking at it and you think, oh, this is terrible, how am I going to get through this? It's only going to be one step in front of the other. And you've got to keep on putting one step in front of the other step, and eventually you'll get there. Okay, never lose hope, put it into perspective, and be ready for change. Now, this is another interesting one. You are not powerless. It's interesting as well. Sometimes we have this view that I haven't got the power to change my situation. Again, this is a learned behavior. You are powerless to do things. And it then leads to one of the kind of the paradigms mentioned earlier, okay, the world is against me. And fundamentally, you do have the power to change who you are, okay? You know, the reality is what history has shown us is that one person with one idea can change the whole face of the world. So individuals, and you know, I'm going to move on to this section in a minute, but I'll throw the question open now. What has had the most profound change in the world? What changes the world more than anything else? Can someone tell me? What creates transformation? What creates the real transformation on a global level? That's a small question. Isaac Newton. And what did Isaac Newton, what was it? What was it? Science, okay, science.
Technology.
Sorry?
Technology.
Technology, okay.
Changing yourself.
Changing yourself, okay.
Brain. Human brain.
The brain, okay. Right. Okay, hold that thought, just one more. Go ahead, go ahead.
I think the peace.
Peace, okay, good. All right. Okay, let me introduce a law, and you guys all know this law, because you, I'm sure, study this law all the time in the cognitive sense, but I want you to look at the law of cause and effect in the emotional sense of it. So what is the law of cause and effect? Okay, you know, just to go through it, the law of cause and effect, the relationship between an event and a cause, and the second event, the effect, are consequences of each other. And it's based, you know, put it more simply, you reap what you sow. And we can use